Around the Block with Cody Diesbourg and Brigitte Pellerin.
You wanted to talk about karate is this a boy sport or a girl sport?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a common thing that comes up. Shouldn't, but it's a common thing that comes up. And it's kind of funny that I see it more now than I used to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And, the mentality of martial arts, it used to be more hardcore. And
Right.
people didn't care back then because it was really like, well, I'm sure it was. It just maybe wasn't out there as much, right? But, I just remember growing up, there was no age, there was no sex, there was no, it didn't matter who you were, it just mattered the uniform and the belt, right? And you respected each other for what you put into martial arts, and I was thinking back too, and like a lot of the competitions that we did back in the day, it was boys and girls put together up to a certain age,
Right.
up until basically we hit puberty,
Right.
And I got my butt handed to me by a lot of girls. There was a lot of things that there was a lot of great competition going back and forth between the genders, but that wasn't what it was. I mean, everyone had something to prove, but mostly to themselves, right? But it was just something that kind of popped in my head just because of I've heard a few things recently too where it's like, it's not ladylike, and
Right.
And so it just kind of got up in my head where I was just like, oh, what should we talk about next? Well, let's talk about what that is all about, right?
So is karate or martial arts in general ladylike or not? Now you're not a lady.
No.
So
but
you
I do
wouldn't.
have ladies in my family.
Right.
It's
And
a
what would they
lady-dominant
say?
family. Well, I mean, between the group of them, there's definitely a few black belts in there.
Uh-huh.
And a few gold medals too that go with it, and a few other medals to go with it. So it's something where, it's for whoever wants to put in the effort. But I think it's more about just the concept of guys versus girls. You see it everywhere, right? I mean, we can have fun with it in class where we say, the boys better than the girls better than the boys,
for
who's
sure.
louder. And
Kids love that.
Kids love to do
Yeah.
it, and it drives them to be who they are. So, I don't know. It's just something that I wanted to bring up and talk a little bit about. But, definitely not, it's like karate is karate. So it's not ladylike or guy-like.
It's gender neutral very much.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's how to use your body to the best of its abilities, use your mind to the best of its abilities in order to become the best person you can be, but also be able to, if you had to, defend yourself and do so very effectively. And I would argue that not only is it ladylike, but karate and being good at self-defense allows you to be even more of a lady. And I can explain that.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you do that?
Because when you have the confidence, knowing that you've trained for years, you've practiced, you've done some fighting in competition or otherwise just at the dojo, you have experienced the power of those techniques. You know what you could do if you were forced to take action to defend yourself or defend your children or what have you. This allows you to relax a little bit more into the other aspect of you, the more ladylike aspect of you. You don't have to have your guard up nearly as much as you might otherwise have to if you were not confident in your ability to defend yourself. You can afford to be more friendly, more open to other people, including strangers, not obviously at 3 a.m. behind the dumpster in the dark alley, but if you're just out into the world and you have people who come and they want to try and be friendly with you, you can allow that a little bit more because you know in the back of your mind that you have this really hard back stopper, right?
Yeah.
And this allows you to be more relaxed, friendlier, smile more, be more open, laugh a little bit, and then if it's time to sometimes some guys are sometimes slow at picking up signals that you're a nice person but no thank you. You can, if you have to, be harder and it will work because in your eyes they will see that they may not know the whole story, but they will know just looking at you and the way you say things, the confidence with which you say, you know what, good night now, I'm leaving. they just don't bother you.
I could end you.
Yeah, they kind of feel that, and then they just say, you know what, nice meeting you. I hope you change your mind. Here's my number anyway. Yeah, okay. Good night now. And it allows you to be more relaxed into that role. So I think that, in fact, self-defense helps you be even more of a lady. Plus, you get to paint your nails if you want, because you train barefoot, right? And if you really want to be ladylike about your karate, paint your toenails. No, there's no issues with that, right? We can do that.
Sure.
I don't personally, but
there's a lot of young boys that I see like that too these
That
days,
too,
right?
that's right.
So that's why I say, like, there's a lot of things that are perceived as guys and girls' ways of doing things, and I think as the days go on, we're seeing more of that barrier being broken down. But in my eyes, like, it's almost people's perception of karate has gone the other way. You know, the divisions of competition are split up a lot.
Yes.
You know, from an early age, and you know, a lot of places will train guys with the guys, girls with the girls, and some of that is comfort. So I get that. I understand that. You
Especially
know,
at the beginning. When you're starting,
Sure.
you don't want to go up against the big, tall guy, especially if
Sure.
he's super sweaty.
And there's a place for that, right? Like there, I totally understand it. It's case by case. You know, some people are more comfortable sparring the same gender, you know, and for whatever reason that is, you know, like when I was training as a kid, there was some of my best training partners were female. Like, you know, there was this girl, Whitney Huff, who she kicked my butt all the time.
I would have loved to see
She had a
that.
mean sidekick. And I remember getting ready for Worlds one year, and it was we were there for private lesson, and we were training, sparring together, and we just kept getting pushed by Wrench Marshall. He was just like, go. And like by the end of it, both of us were in tears. Both of us were like, you know, we both stuffed each other with sidekicks. We both got bopped in the face. We both were like, oh yeah, a little bit bloodied up and teared, but it was like we both survived the match, and there was no ego about it, right? And it really took that piece of guys versus girls away.
How old were you at the time, roughly?
I was probably, I'm gonna say anywhere from 10 to 12. You know, and yeah, she did that to a lot of the boys. Like there was guys that were afraid to fight her, for good reason. You know, and I mean, one of my instructors as a kid, I saw her tear some people up with her mean axe kick and stuff. You know, it was never really thought of as a guy versus girl thing. That was my instructor. That's my black belt, and check this out.
This is interesting because when you see nowadays newer people, especially older people, men that want to start a karate, and they come into class and you're trying to teach them things, and it's odd sometimes how if I'm doing it hard, they will do their very best to do it harder because somehow they don't want to be shown off by a woman. And so I use that a little bit sometimes to make sure that they work hard enough. Not overly hard, because I have had cases, including a friend of mine who thought of himself as pretty fit when he started karate, and I told him, listen, don't try to keep up with me, not for tonight, you know, just take it easy. And he laughed. He said, I could do that.
I got this.
You know. And within 20 minutes, he was white on the floor and had to stop and take some water. And I said, I told you not to try and keep up with me, because with him I could be a little bit more rough because he was my friend. But now he's kept up with it, and now he's got his black belt several times over, which is great. But yeah, I've been known to use that kind of strategy or tactic on men to make sure that they work hard enough, but again, not so hard, but give them that extra challenge. It puts in a bit of an extra edge to their training when they really want to beat the girl, but in a good way, right? To be stronger than a woman, and to some guys, certainly that's a great motivator, and so I use that. So in that sense, yeah, you can sometimes use the gender issue to push people to be their very best. But other times, yeah, no, it doesn't really matter. But one place where it does, and it usually comes down to sparring, because I talk a lot with the parents of some of our kids and that don't do karate yet, and they say, you know, that looks interesting, but I don't know if I could actually hit somebody. So, well, it's all okay, right? This is all fine here to hit
It's an
someone.
agreement that you're going to be good with it as soon as you bow and touch gloves, and that you're both going to show control and
That's
the
right.
best that you can, right?
And we're teaching you. That's why at the beginning, the beginners and intermediates are paired up with more experienced teachers, so that you can deal with that. Because sometimes I joke all the time that the orange belts, the intermediate ones, are the most dangerous people in the dojo, because they're starting to be pretty strong, but they don't yet have that control that they will later have. So when they hit you and they do a technique on you, or a takedown or something, they sometimes get it wrong, and so you get bruised by that. So it's good to have some experience to know how to cope with that. But I always tell them, but it's really okay. Oh, I mean, I know, I hear you, and I see it, and people do it, and they look like they're having fun, but they have somehow, maybe it's a cultural thing, maybe, I don't know, but they have this big barrier about hitting somebody. It's not so much themselves getting hit, although a lot of women don't really like that, or the idea of it.
There's a lot of boys right now that don't like it either, right? Like, until you get past that hump of
That's
actually
right.
getting in there and doing it, you kind of get that empowering feeling of you survived.
What
right?
is awesome to me is to see them try anyway. And they say, okay, well, I will try it. And then they start doing karate, and then eventually they get to that part where they either have to hit somebody or get hit by them, get a block or a punch or something. And suddenly they have this flushed face and big smile that could split their face open. This is awesome, because now they understand the power that comes from knowing that what you're doing is actually real, and it's not just about hitting someone, it's about knowing how to do it should you need to do it. That really has a bit of a magic feel to it.